Namaste. Welcome to Sipping on Stories podcast. I'm your host Irene, and this is where we welcome women healers and spiritual leaders from all around the world to come and share their journeys and their experiences with us. And of course, we do them over warm cups and deep thoughts. For those who have been enjoying our podcast episodes so far, thank you so much for showing your love. And for those who are new to this channel, welcome. Please like and subscribe so we can continue sharing this love. Thank you. Namaste, Charlotte. Welcome to Sipping on Story podcast. I'm very grateful to have you today here. So why don't you tell us where you're joining us from, first of all, and also tell us what beverage have you got with you today for us?
Oh, shoot. That's the one thing I've got. Oh, no.
That's okay. You've got a bottle of water.
Yes, I got my water.
Awesome.
Sorry
Tell us
about
where
that.
you're joining. Tell us where you're joining us from.
I am joining from Winchelsea in Victoria, Australia.
Yeah, and I know that you are kind of in an interesting place because you have converted a huge bus into your home. How's that like? How is that life like?
It's really nice. I used to be a suburb girl. Well, I grew up on a farm, but then I was a suburb girl for many, many years and lived in a house, and I realized that's just not me. I wanted to go out and live on land, but it's very expensive. So my husband and I decided that the best way forward was maybe renovating a bus and making it into a tiny house, and then found some land that we could live on.
Awesome.
Made it more affordable, yeah.
Yeah. All right, great. I want to ask you all about it, but I think today we're kind of here to talk about what your journey is like being a medium, being a psychic. There's so many terminologies you can use, but I'm very interested in knowing, what it feels like when you do connect with spirits or connect to the other side, and how you can actually describe that experience for us. And I know that a lot of psychics out there or mediums out there uh, do have different experiences, but would love to hear from you what your experience is like. And maybe first of all, maybe tell us what is a medium or what is a psychic. So maybe for our listeners who are new to this and they are spiritually awakening or trying to just curiously looking around, so they know what it means from your perspective, and describe us your experience.
Okay. Well, so I'm not very good with the whole labeling because there are so many labels, but generally a medium is someone who connects with spirits who have passed away. So when you say you are a medium or doing mediumship, it's because you're connecting with the spirits that have passed and is no longer here. I would say a psychic, in my terms anyway, is quite a broad term, but it's more like I can do a psychic reading on someone who is here and who is present right now, and that can go from past, present, future, and it's just the whole idea of feeling someone's presence and energy and who they are and what they're going to go through in life.
All right. And how do you usually connect with spirits? Do you for example, do you kind of sense them as you're just sitting watching TV, or do you have to really sit down in a space and contain yourself in order to connect with them?
Both, I would say. Some spirits come through very strongly. And with those spirits, I can even just be talking with someone and I start receiving images or the presence or feeling of someone. Yeah. And other spirits might be more holding back, and where I sort of have to sit down and meditate and close my eyes or really get a stronger sensation of who they are.
All right. And when you do connect with your clients, and for a reading, for example, do you use any tools to guide you through that session, like maybe tarot cards or any other kind of tools?
No, I never, I've always loved tarot cards and the idea of it, but I just I haven't needed them ever because I get so much information even without the tarot cards that I think using tarot cards additionally would just maybe confuse me or do two different paths, because instead I sort of follow my intuition and the knowing and let that guide me what direction I'm going in and what it is that I need to focus on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. And kind of I need to ask you this question now, is that what your personal journey has been and that has brought you to this point, and how did you first discover your abilities as a psychic medium, or even to kind of know that you were able to connect with something that normal people cannot even see or or even feel. So what was the defining moment really for you when this really started and got you to this point?
So when I was little, I had a lot of very strong premonitions. I was always a very unusual child in the way that in my family life, I think it started when I was maybe 7 or 8. I had one very strong premonition that my cat, which was my everything, was going to die, and we were going to go to France on a holiday. I'm originally from Denmark and Norway, so that was like a typical holiday destination for us. And I had a very strong knowing that something was going to happen to him, and I had strong visual dreams. So I was begging and pleading for my parents that we wouldn't go, because I just wouldn't leave him. And he wasn't toilet trained, so he normally had like the balcony door open at night so that he could go in and out himself. But the last night before we left for France, I decided to sleep in the bathroom so that I was sure he was there in the morning, just so I could say goodbye, because I knew it was my last goodbye. And then after that, I had, because we were on a farm, it was very animal related. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night and say, the horses are running around on the road, and my dad would be like, have you been up there? Like, what's going on? And I'd be like, no, it's just a knowing. I just know that they are.
Yeah.
And then from there on, I saw before my dad had a stroke, before my mum's partner had a stroke. I had lots of funny little episodes, like if I'd play a game or something, I knew what someone would roll with their dice. It was just even small, tiny little details. It wasn't just death. Like it was a lot of things that I always just knew what the outcome would be before the outcome had happened. But obviously, when you feel the energy of other people, as I became a teenager, if I talk about it to people who wasn't aware of it and didn't know about this, I could instantly feel this step back, like I was weird. So I kind of stopped talking about it and just kept it to myself, these feelings I'd get. And it sort of went away for many, many years. Like my first marriage was with a very conservative guy, and we had like the typical dream with the house and the car and the dog and the kids, and I sort of lived that life for a long time until I just couldn't anymore, and I had to give it up. And then when I met my current partner, the first thing I said to him was that I've always had this knowing, and I want to find out what it is and where it comes from, because I'm really, really curious about it, because no one's ever been able to explain it to me or give me a reason for it.
Yeah.
So one day after like I had met my husband and we moved in the bus, I watched Tyler Henry, who I'd never heard or seen before. And usually I don't like people who say they're clairvoyant, or because they're very, in my opinion, the ones I've come across, not everyone, as I've found out, but a lot of them that I came across just came through with such a strong, little bit obnoxious or eccentric feeling that I didn't feel like I resonated with them, and I didn't feel like I was like them. Like I couldn't resonate. And then when I watched Tyler Henry, the way that he does his readings and the way he feels it and the way that you can see he's got empathy in his heart when he talks to people and really cares about the way he delivers the messages.
Yeah.
So after that, I got really curious, and even more so, and I joined a group with free readings on Facebook, and I started doing free readings for people who had just photos, and I got approved as a reader because you have to like go through a test. And from there on, it was just incredible, the experiences that I had. Like, I could look at a photo and I could know so many things about that person. I could know if it was someone who passed away, I knew what maybe they had been up to in life, what they were like in life.
Hmm.
And then it just snowballed from there, and I got more and more.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. It's quite a journey. And so, what is the most profound message that you've actually received from the other side or from the spirit world?
There's quite a few. There's not just one. There's been a lot of times now where I almost get goosebumps myself, because it's just so accurate and so bang on.
Mhm.
But the one that stands out to me was the first time I took a paid reading, and I was going to go to a house and sit down with, it was a 40th party, and I'd signed up for doing 3 readings to 3 beautiful ladies.
Mhm.
But it was the first time I was sort of taking a payment and also going out of my way to be in live, like right there with them. So I was extremely nervous. And right before I went there, I sort of sat in the car for a little bit trying to meditate. And I just kept having this golden retriever just running around constantly. And then after the golden retriever sort of went away, there was a man that came through, and he showed me that he had passed away, but not from old age, and that he had missed a lot of, it felt very fatherly. He had missed some of the upbringing and things. So he came through very, very strongly, and there was a lot more detail. So when I walked into the house and I explained who I was and what I was doing, um, I just sort of blurted out before we sat down, and I'm like, sorry, but I have to ask, like, did someone lose a golden retriever? And it was interesting because it was the woman who was maybe more on the skeptic side. She just, as soon as I said that, she just burst into tears. And then I asked her if it was her dad as well who had passed away, and this man who came through, and I described, what age he had passed away and things like that.
Mhm.
And she just continued to cry. And then, of course, it went smooth sailing from there on with all of the 3 people that I had. But there's been a lot of incredible things that has happened. Like, this podcast wouldn't be enough time to go through all of the stories that I have.
Yeah, of course. Were there any kind of experiences in a way that, as humans, sometimes our limitation is our mind, and there's so much more to it that we can even perceive, or we can't even like think, our mind cannot kind of receive this information or even unravel that information, right? So how is that? So what I'm trying to ask is that, humans might think like, oh, the other side is, this is how the other side is, because we read books, we read material that's on in the internet. But have you come across the incident where you think that, oh my God, when this is actually not the truth, some of the myths as you think they are, if you can maybe share a few.
Um, well, I have a few theories, if that's what you would like to hear.
Okay, yeah.
But at first, like, I think Tyler Henry, I think he explained it in the way that when spirits come through, often people expect someone who's a clairvoyant or psychic or medium. They expect that we sort of just see everything and feel everything. But it's like if we were to try and explain something to a dog and say the color red, because they're sort of colorblind. So they wouldn't understand the concept of what this color looks like.
Mm.
So for people who don't understand this, because we don't really have a concept, if we haven't experienced this before, we often just feel that it's non-existent, even though it is. Like, there's so much in the universe and in the spirit world that we just can't comprehend and understand. And when spirits talk through us, I have some extremely good friends now who are all doing the same as me, but we're all very different. And what I realized is that they sort of come through you using our senses. So it can be your emotional senses, it can be smelling, it can be tasting, it can be hearing, it can be seeing with the visual dreams or visual images that you get. They come through very, very differently from each other. So for me, they come through by feel like a knowingness and a feeling of the emotions, and then I get images. But I can't smell things and I can't feel things physically. Like I have a really good friend who she can feel like if there's something specific with the heart or something, she feels everything very physically, very strongly, which I can't do. So we're not all the same, and we can't any of us say what the spirit world or what the afterlife is like, because it's so hard to comprehend, and we probably have more questions than anyone else because we just see little glimpses of it. So it makes us even more curious about how it works and where it's all coming from and how we do this.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. And do you find that communicating with spirits has changed your perspective on how you actually view life and death?
Definitely death. Like I'm 100% certain that this is not it for us. Obviously, because I keep feeling and connecting with spirits. So I know that once we pass over, it's not just dying and then that's it, even though that's a lot of people have that theory. I used to, but definitely not anymore. There's an interesting thing that I want to add, which is unusual, but it's something that I've thought about a lot. So there's a drug that's called DMT. Now, I don't want to talk about drugs as such, but it's something that's actually found in our brain.
The death hormone, isn't it?
It's like a molecule that's found in our brain, and when we don't ever release it in our whole lifetime, but when we're born we release it, and when we die we release it. Now, people who, because you can get it from acacia bark and things like that, they say that, I've never tried it, but it comes through saying that it's a very, like, it's the spirit molecule, and you feel like you see things and you hallucinogenic thing, hallucinate. And my theory is that there's got to be a reason why this molecule is only released when we're born and only released when we die. So I have a theory that it's something that is released so that when we pass away, it's what helps us over towards the spirit world, and a spirit follows that in. But that's a theory. It's not something I can prove, and I obviously know science. They just think that it's something that happens to let us die easier. But I think there's got to be a reason why this exact molecule is released when we're born and when we die, and that's it.
It's interesting. I've heard of it. I've only heard that it's released at the time of dying, but it is quite, it's interesting and news for me that it's also released when you're born. That is quite interesting.
Well, that's what I've been told anyway. Don't quote
okay.
on it, but I know that it's not released any other time through our lives, even though we have it in our brains.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that is quite interesting. And to add to that, I've heard where people go to a setting to kind of take this drug, so they can have experiences or out-of-body experiences, or what you call it. And there's a place in Thailand, I'm not sure where exactly, but when I was researching, I came across this place where they put you in the dark for, say, 14 days or 1 week. So you just basically live in the dark, and you minimize your food intake, and there's nothing that you can see. So you can't use your phones. You don't have any source of entertainment. You're just in this room with other people. You're just in the dark. So this allows you to also release DMT naturally, where people can have these experiences.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Sorry, there's a train in the background, but yes, keep going.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you'd come across that, but I thought that was quite interesting how you can get your body to release this chemical just naturally, just being in the dark. And the light really inhibits the release of this chemical from our brain. So
I think it's interesting. Like, I mean, I have experiences where, people will often tell me that they take certain things to get these experiences, but I have out of body experiences and see things very visually and very vividly all the time, which I think that it's something that one can learn to release whatever it is and feel things and see things. but I think it takes a lot of maybe mental understanding and being open like to these experiences.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And because so there is they say that your thoughts are not your thoughts, and you can have so many things influencing your thoughts. So how when you are like so open and you can sense spirits or energies so much, and you're so sensitive to them, so how do you kind of distinguish between your own thoughts and the messages that are coming from the other side?
It's interesting because it really comes through for me almost like a knowing. Um, I think once you've done this and you start practicing it and you've had some experiences, you realize the distinct difference between the two.
Mm.
But I think it's also very easy to let your imagination or your thoughts play a role, but you learn to get humble real quick when that sort of happens, because people will be very upfront with you when something doesn't resonate.
Mm.
So usually for me, when I'm just feeling like, I feel like knowing, like I feel like, oh, I know this person, I feel this person, that's usually because I am like tuning into them, but
Mm.
it's almost like I'm not there. It's really hard to explain. It comes through often where I can have a conversation with someone and we can sit for a half an hour and talk, and then afterwards I feel like I wasn't even there. It's like I feel like someone else is coming through and just talking through me and using me as a vessel to like deliver messages, and then when it's over I sort of go back to myself and back to my own experiences, and I'm amazed with what happened, but I don't like to take credit for what happened, because I don't feel like it's actually me, that it's like it's coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's really hard to explain.
Yeah, no, that is beautiful. Thank you for, telling that. And I think what I also want to know is, as humans, we all have a soul, and we do have some or the other level of intuition. Everybody does, but I think it's how you kind of sharpen it every day, and how much of you're aware of it. So what I want to ask you is that, can anyone be a psychic? And if people want to like go ahead and practice and how they can work on the intuition, what are some of the things they can kind of do to connect with their soul more closely or more deeply?
Okay, so it's a question that many people have asked me before. I'm not going to say it's impossible for anyone to be a psychic, but uh, when I meet people, I straight away get a sensation of if someone is very logically driven or if someone is very creatively driven.
Mm.
And when people are very logical and sort of like science and likes facts and likes, they're very closed off. So for someone like that, it would be incredibly hard to train their brain to think in a completely different way of how their brain thinks. So
Yeah.
I think it would be very, very hard for them. Generally, the people that I meet who have these abilities are people who have a lot of empathy,
Mm.
which is ironic because it also attracts people who are, sorry, I'm just going to be blunt about it. It also attracts people who are narcissistic tendencies, who don't have empathy. And usually the reason why it attracts them is because there's obviously money, and I think some narcissist people, they enjoy the feeling of like they're ego driven, so they enjoy the feeling of that they're better than someone else and they could do something that no one else can. But so you have to be very careful when you choose a psychic that you don't end up with someone who is on the narcissistic side and find someone who actually is has a lot of empathy, because
Mm.
they're completely two different people. And the ones that have a lot of empathy, like my friends that I know who are doing this, they have an incredibly amount of empathy. They've been through a lot of rough times. Like I've literally never met anyone who's been through as much hardship in their lives as the soul sisters that I've come across. And then they also very creatively driven, like they see beauty and art in things and forms where other people might not. So I think there's a personality type that has a lot easier time to do the psychic readings and learn to do it, where there's another personality type. Well, there's a lot of personality types in general, but like it depends on the person. I think someone who is very black and white is never going to learn how to do it, whereas someone who, let's give an example, someone who might work as a nurse and who has a lot of empathy and a lot of care, and who is not driven by money and she's not driven by ego, and she feels like she hears things or sees signs, someone like that would have the ability to learn to become a psychic or a clairvoyant.
Yeah, oh, very beautifully put. And I think that was very real with no filter. And I just love that. And this is what this whole channel is about, right? That's what we want. So thank you for sharing that really. It's the truth. It's really the truth. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, and I guess, when I think about people who are connecting with, different energies on a different level, because you're so open and so sensitive in receiving this energy and feeling this energy. So I'm pretty sure you should be doing some level of grounding, making sure that you are not kind of driven by any other thoughts or any other negativity, perhaps. So is there any sort of grounding or kind of protection techniques you use on yourself?
I'd say that it's about being able to quietening your mind. Because the more you can let go of your own ego, the more you can quieten in your own thoughts, that's when more things will come through. When I was working a full-time job and looking after kids and had a very busy, hectic lifestyle, it's near impossible to feel things because you hardly even have the time to look after yourself. So I think to be able to do these and feel these things, you really have to have like time to just sit by yourself, get to know yourself and feel what is around you and have that space that you open up for these experiences to come through.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I guess with that, Charlotte, I think we have come to an end of this episode, and I don't know how 30 minutes just flew. Just talking to you and listening to your experiences. I want to ask you more questions, but sadly, that's all the time we have today. But before we wrap up, I want to know if you have a particular message that you feel that the spirits want to communicate to the living as a whole.
I did think about this, but no, because I feel like even spirits sometimes go over and it takes them a long time to like, even I feel like some spirits still have some regrets and come through with some trauma and things like that. So in some ways, even though spirits are angelic in many ways, they also have a lot of human traits to them, and a lot of regrets and things like that can come through. So I think they just come through to remind us that they are here, that they, look after us and they stay with their loved ones. What I find really interesting is someone once said to me that if you suddenly really want to become a writer or you're suddenly taking up an interest, it might be because you actually have a spirit who in the past was a writer or something like that, who's decided to come and be in your space and be with you, even if you don't know them. And they might be the one who's sort of like encouraging you and guiding you through that process or path in your life. And I always thought that was really beautifully put, even though I don't have the proof that that is what happens. I love the idea of that they come and guide you and help you in life, even the ones that we don't know.
Yeah, that is quite beautiful. Look, thank you so much for sharing that. And I believe that our ancestors or grandparents passed over as well. Sometimes they come along to help you. And I think with this, I want to end with kind of sharing a little story about myself, maybe an event that happened. is that I was driving back home one night and it was raining. So there was nobody, like nobody on the road, and it was, I think, around 10 p.m. and it was quite, you know, quite silent. I would say it was just rain. So I'm driving, and this was in Brisbane when I was in Brisbane, and there was a roundabout. I was meant to kind of take a right, and suddenly, I don't know what happened. My car just went skidding, and I'm not a rash driver or anything. I'm quite careful when I'm driving, and my car just skid, and I felt like someone literally moved my car from that right lane to the left lane. And then out of nowhere, there was another car that, as soon as I moved, I got pushed to that lane. There was another car that just went past. So if that did not happen, I would have, been in an accident. It was weird
Yeah.
because out of nowhere, that car just came in, and then I could feel there was an external force that pushed the car to the other lane. It was not natural.
Yeah.
I believe that, spirits in any form will be there in angelic forms, as you said, to help you.
Yeah.
And it can come in weird ways. So that story kind of popped in my head, and I thought, maybe it's worthwhile sharing.
Yeah. I get the feeling that with that story that it's most likely someone who's passed away, a family like who has a very protective energy over you that's helped you out in that situation. Because
Yeah.
family or people who are really loving, like they have a certain protection over you in life and they make sure that nothing happens to you. So that might not even have been someone you didn't know. That I would almost say certainly someone that you would have known.
Yeah, I believe that too as well. So, well, thank you so much for today, Charlotte, really for your time and for all that you have shared. It has been beautiful, and I have really enjoyed our conversation today. And as I said, the time just flew. So again, thank you so much for coming on Sipping on Stories podcast. And
Yes.
with this, do a little cheers. Um, Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night and stay warm.
Thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
right, take care.